Oh, Mary, that sucks. Because I heard you were coming back on Monday.
Good. Okay. Good afternoon. As many of you know, a tremendous rainfall has led to significant flooding and power outages throughout the city of Dearborn and the region. The city of Dearborn and its employees have been preparing for and responding to this rainstorm since late last night and through the morning to assist residents and bring in additional resources. The city of Dearborn is working with and communicating with and regularly with officials at the local, county, state, and federal level. Earlier today, a local state of emergency was declared by Mayor O'Reilly and the City Council, and at that meeting, it was approved, $500,000 was approved for immediate response to the flood. A few hours later, the state of Michigan has also declared an emergency, and we continue to coordinate with the state's emergency management officials. At this time, this continues to be a developing situation, but I want to ensure all residents that all resources are being deployed and all pathways to help are being pursued. There's been many reports of flooding and power outages throughout the city. As a result, the city of Dearborn has opened up a cooling shelter for those folks who cannot remain at home due to damage or power loss. The cooling shelter is located at the Ford Community and Performing Arts Center at 15801 Michigan Avenue, and it will be open as long as needed. The city of Dearborn is also distributing dry ice to residents with ID who have experienced power outages at a drive-through also located at the Ford Community Performing Arts Center at 15801 Michigan Avenue. Residents will need to bring a cooler to transport their dry ice safely to home. And I just want to remind all residents at this time that if you have not got water in your basement or you still have valuables down there, please have them removed if you can do so safely, as more rain is predicted to come. At this time, I'd like to now turn it over to Dearborn City Council President Susan DeVaja.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief Murray. So last night we experienced another catastrophic storm and many homes across Dearborn were flooded. Each of us here today has witnessed the destruction of the storm, and what we have seen we will not forget. I understand people are angry and that people are upset, and rightfully so. I am angry and I am upset, and the catastrophe has devastated our community. I stand here today, yes, as your City Council President, but more importantly as your friend and as your neighbor. And as your neighbor, along with Mayor O'Reilly and with my City Council colleagues and the administration, we are here to do everything we can to help each and every person during this challenging time. We are strong and we are resilient, but we have seen firsthand that we are stronger together. Our only focus should be uniting as a community on this road to recovery. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, I want you to know that you are not alone. We see you, we hear you, and we'll be taking swift and immediate action. The city is working around the clock to make sure that our residents have access to guidance and resources during every step of the way. Early this morning, we called for an emergency meeting with the Dearborn City Council, Mayor Jack O'Reilly and the administration to address this horrific flooding and to take action to provide our residents with immediate relief. First, Mayor Jack O'Reilly has declared a local state of emergency so that city administration can take action immediately to address this crisis. And I also want to thank Governor Gretchen Whitmer for declaring a state of emergency on the state level. Second, the Dearborn City Council has approved the allocation of $500,000 for cleanup efforts. We are asking that everyone place any flood damaged goods on the curb. GFL, our garbage disposal service, will come around and assist with picking up garbage and any flood damaged goods from your curb. More information will be provided by Tim Hawkins, our PMAS director. We've also established a call center number to report any flooding and damages. We'll be gathering data now so that we are able to request the appropriate funding as soon as disaster relief funds become available. We're asking that everyone please call 313-943-3030 to report the damages incurred as a result of the flooding. And I understand that our MIS department is also looking to see if they can place something online for people to fill in as well. Fourth, currently more than 100 trucks and many employees are working and trying to drain the flooding, which has drastically affected different parts of our city, namely the East End. Volunteers across the city are assisting with cleanup and checking in on those most impacted. So lastly, I want to say if you're able to, check in on your elderly neighbors. Make sure your friends and family are safe. And just prior to this, we all got off a call with county, state, and federal officials. I want to thank Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, who has been in touch with the White House and who's made them aware of this problem as well. We are working around the clock to recover from this catastrophe. This is a developing situation, and all resources are being deployed, and all pathways to help are being pursued on behalf of our residents. We're committed to swift action, transparency, and to getting you information as needed, and investigate exactly what happened. We'll be updating you as soon as we gather more information. Thank you very much, and at this point, I'd like to pass the mic on to Tim Hawkins.
Good afternoon, everyone. Tim Hawkins, Director for Property Maintenance and Development Services. During this terrible time, I would like to bring up the fact that when you're dealing with a flood, you should make sure that the power is turned off to your basement. Everyone knows that electricity and water do not mix. You should use all of the protection that you can when handling the materials, such as rubber gloves, boots, anything that will protect you from the water. Even though it appears to be storm, I have personally pumped out 7 basements and it all appears to be stormwater. It may have contaminants in it that could be dangerous to your health and otherwise. Any damaged items should be carried out to the curb. GFL is going to continue with its normal service throughout the week, but any of the bulk items that it can load onto its trucks, it will. If we have carryover, we are planning on picking them up on Saturdays. We are also going to continue this for several weeks, I believe now, due to the amount that I have seen. This morning, I did not realize the amount of damage that had occurred in the East End, and it is definitely more than was initially realized. The last thing is there may be more rain moving forward as we go along. So as the chief had originally stated, please, anything that you want to continue to own, get out of the basement, get to higher ground, get them out to the garage, get things cleaned up. If more water does come in, we'll have less to clean up. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chief Ronald Haddad, Dearborn Police. I just have a couple of things. Number one, we've worked since late last night to keep the streets as clear as we can possibly get them. I can tell you to date, aside from the basements, which are on a personal level for individuals, we've had over several hundred cars that were abandoned under the bridges, the freeway entrances, exits, etc. As of this hour, the day shift has towed more than 100 cars. What I would suggest to our community and ask of them is that if you don't have to go out and it starts raining again, stay home. Do not pull under a viaduct or a lower end of a street with other cars under there, because it makes no sense that 30 cars get locked in under a viaduct, and we can't rescue everyone. So it's very vulnerable for them. Second of all, I want to ensure the public and our residents that we have put together a comprehensive plan to mitigate going forward the flood damage, and we're working together with every city department. And the last thing I want to say is that let's make sure we look out for our seniors in our community. Oftentimes they tend to be very independent, but at times like this, we need to check on them. Many of the phone services are not working properly at this time. Thank you.
My name is Bill Irving. I'm an attorney in the city's law department. I want to reiterate what the council president said, that there will be an investigation as to the cause of this flooding. We will be working with the emergency management authorities to help with the coordination of any emergency management funds that become available. To that end, we encourage residents to document their losses, take pictures, take video. If you have a video of water in the basement and it's receding, that would be very helpful going forward. So pictures of all the losses, pictures of the curb once the damaged goods are out there, those will all go a long way towards helping the city with documenting the extent of this disaster. The other thing I would suggest is that residents look into their homeowners insurance coverage To the extent water came out of the floor drains in the basement, there's a possibility that the homeowner's insurance may provide some coverage for that, depending on the terms of your policy. The city does have a claim form residents can complete and submit, and that would be reviewed in coordination with the availability of any emergency management funds. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is James Murray. I'm Director of Public Works. First of all, I'd like to thank the men and women who responded, the Dearborn employees. I think that we can't overstate their dedication and their hard work. From the fire department, the police department, and all the public employees. We've had over 100 of our staff in the field trying to respond to flooding events, blocked sewers, and a number of other things. So thank you all to them, and we hope that you will thank them when you see them in the field, because I think they deserve that kind of respect. What happened? Everybody is asking that. In fact, I've heard some people say all the work that Dearborn's been doing and all this money they've been spending, we thought we were protected. How come we're still getting flooding? Well, I just want to dispel any kind of opinion that you're going to be immune from any kind of major flooding. Our system is built to handle about 95 to 98% of any flood that occurs from a 3-inch storm that happens over 24 hours. So that kind of a storm ends up with no basement flooding. And I have here a chart, and I'll have Eunice Patel, the city engineer, explain what Dearborn, how it's built and the particular challenges we have. But this chart shows you the top one is normal operation up to 3 inches. 99% of all our storms don't occur at 3 inches for 24 hours. We might get 3 inches in a couple of hours, but we don't get it over 24. Also, if there's rain beforehand and the ground is saturated, that can make it worse. This anticipates saturated ground. Most of the time, you don't have rain 3 or 4 days before a storm, and the ground will act like a sponge, and you don't get that kind of runoff. What we had in 2014, some of you were here and recall that, we had 5.8 inches over at Outer Drive. We have a facility there. We have a rain gauge that we're required to operate. And we also have one at Prospect that's over by Prospect on the other side of Schaefer. And that registered 4.7 inches of rain for that 2014 event. And we had over 1,000 homes get flooded, about 50-50 on each side of town. 2021, last night, at Outer Drive, we had 7.58 inches of rain, almost 2 inches more than what we got there in 2014. Over at Prospect, our rain gauge failed. We think it was more than 7.58 inches of rain, just because the storm seemed to be tracking along I-94. So that caused particular problems on the east side, more severe on the west side. And Eunice Patel can explain to you how our system is built and why it seems like the west side gets a little more relief. And he has that information for you now. And we can be happy to answer questions afterward, I'm sure.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Eunice Patel, city engineer. And I'm going to go over existing conditions. This is map. We have our sewer trunk lines. These are the highlighted map is about 48 inch diameter pipe and over. We have about 550 miles of sewer system. That includes from 12 inch diameter all the way to 17 feet diameter. Line in brown is our Roos River. All these lines are highlighted yellow. They are trunk sewer, they are bigger sewers. And these red dots are the connecting discharge point along the Roos River. So any water dumps into the Dearborn system upstream has to come down to this discharge point. As you can see that we have in the West Dearborn 13 discharge point, although they are kind of smaller diameter from 48 to 8 foot diameter, 48 inches to 8 foot diameter. In East Dearborn, we have only 2, substantially larger diameter, 17 feet diameter, 10 feet and 12 feet diameter. But we have only 2 outlets. So these are the existing system. And as part of the sewer separation, we did in northeast and northwest, this area, that part of the sewer separation is not a sewer improvement project. It was a federally mandated sewer separation project where we have separated wastewater from rainwater. That's a fundamental principle of that project. As doing so, we got ancillary benefit that we put down the bigger sewer here, additional sewer. We created 3.95 million gallon of additional storage underground. That's a benefit we got it. That water is right now inside the pipe. It's not inside the people's basement. It's not on top of the road surface. That 3.95 million gallon is underground stored. That's the benefit we got it with the sewer separation project. That's ancillary benefit. We also got about 50 miles of new roads and new water line as part of this project. Now, if you can see this blue mark, that only 30% of drainage area for Dearborn. So if somebody say that, okay, we did all that big project, we only work on 30% of the surface area of Dearborn, not 70% system as it is. So if somebody has any perception that, okay, we spend, that much money, but those money spends are only for this 30%. 70% systems are still as it is. So I want to make sure that you guys understand that, you work here, it doesn't mean that I got a perfect system here, because the drainage point is here. So until I get this drop of water goes from here all the way up to here, and that makes perfect, then the system is perfect. So by working down in a local area, it doesn't make that you're prone to basement flooding or street floodings. I just want to make sure that there's a system of existing sewer system. Now, part between West Dearborn and East Dearborn, if you see that this is the river, this is a sewer system. In West Dearborn, sewers that were constructed between 1930s and 1960s. These are the old system. We are still using it. These sewers were designed, I believe, based on the standard of that time. Since the standard has changed, and every time, standard goes with the current standards. So this system was designed based on standard of that time. Advantage what we got in West Dearborn is topography, ground elevation is relatively very high. So that they were able to build, not us, but they were able to build this sewer system deeper. And then river was also, elevation was lower. So as long as this water comes out here and dumps into the river and stays above this area, we are safe. In fact, even this manhole, if the water comes out up to this elevation, you're still safe because it's too deep. Your basements are connected at this point. So as long as you have water up to here in this pipe, we are safe. Unfortunately, that's not the case in East Dearborn. First of all, East Dearborn grounds are relatively shallow. So they could not put the deeper sewer. It's only like, some areas only 7 feet to 10 feet. So anytime this is the normal river elevation. If the river stays at this water elevation, this sewer is fine, is functioning good with a high velocity. Because for sewer operation, velocity is critical. So as long as the river elevation is down, this water is going to go fast because of the velocity. So now, like this morning I checked the river elevation, water level is up to here. Now when the water level goes up to this point.
I'm going to point here so they understand it. This is East Dearborn outfall. The Rouge River is over here in Southfield in South Michigan Avenue. This is the turning basin at the Fort Motor Company. That's our outfall. The river elevation at these two elevations is set by the Great Lakes, and it's about 8 feet higher than what it would normally be. So trying to get the water out of these pipes is more difficult because that water is so high. When the water level is down in this 40-year cycle, and we're just starting to go down now, this will return to what it was designed to do. But right now, it wasn't designed to fight against these high water levels of the Great Lakes. Over here, the water level isn't impacted by as much on the Great Lakes, and the river elevation of these sewers are flowing pretty freely.
So when the river elevation is high, water level is high, it precludes this velocity. I guess sewers are designed to carry 5 to 8 feet per second velocity. That becomes only like 0.5 foot per second. So when you have 0.5, because of this velocity, water level, we have all surcharge here. In fact, we had that last night, we had the water all the way up to here because the water was not pushing. Because this water is going that way, river is flowing that way, so this flow is fighting against the water elevation. And that's what we got an issue, I guess, right now, because river elevation is so high and the sewers are below, we have no velocity, I guess, to flow. So that's a part, I guess, we have in East Dearborn, mainly because of the ground topography, because they couldn't go deeper. Ideally, sewer, if we want to be as deep as we can, and have the outlet, free outlet. These are not the free outlet, these are constrained outlet. It's restricted, and water has to force, I guess, along with the water level of river.
So
That's what you have to.
A lot of people think the rain seems to stop. Why hasn't the water gone down automatically? And on the east side, because the Rouge River is so high, and what's happening with the Rouge, it has 470-some square miles of drainage area. It's all going to crest in this channelized area, and I don't think it's crested yet. And if we get more rainwater, it's still going to stay high. If you go down to Southfield Road, look at that channelized section over here to Rotunda, it's out of the concrete area and way up the bank. And that's making our sewers work harder.
So what we have done with the separation project, Jim, can I have that map? So when you work in this blue area, as a part of the sewer separation, we added new sewer. And when we added new sewer, we wanted to make sure that the rainwater does not go inside, slow down the rainwater going inside the basement. We prefer to have rainwater standby stored on the road surface. So you may have seen some road flooded last night. That was intentional. Because when you have excessive rain, we wanted to make sure that water stays on the road, not inside the basement. So this way we can mitigate, I guess, any issue. We prefer to have that water, I guess, standby in the right of way, road level, not inside the basement. That's why this whole area, streets were all flooded. It was not a faulty design, it's intentional. Because of that kind of rain event, we want to make sure, I guess, the water stays up, not in the basement, inside the basement. So that's by design, I guess that's how it was designed. So I just got an addresses, I guess, about the flooding. We have street flooding in this area, but very minimum basement flooding. That's one of the reasons.
Compared to 2014, 300 homes getting flooded is unacceptable. We try to do everything we can stop that. We can't stop huge rainfalls and our sewer backing up, but it's a lot different than 2014. Can I say one other thing?
Sure.
Our facilities, our pump stations, and all our drainage systems were running unimpeded during the storm. I had one area reported on Argyle that we had some roots in one of our storm sewer systems, and we got those chopped out, and it's flowing freely. Clerk Duraney brought up that some people have asked him, well, can I keep the water out of my basement by putting a plug in my floor drain or a riser pipe so the water stays in the riser pipe or doesn't come into my basement? Do not do that, because what you do is the ground elevation outside your basement will start rising. It's not getting relieved. It will crack your floor and your foundations, and it can ruin your house. So it's better to have the water inside your house and deal with that afterwards as opposed to destroying your basement. Mayor?
I just want to say we're ready to go. We've got people who are very much engaged in showing you what can be done and what we're going to do. And I'm very proud of everybody.
Thank you.
I don't know if there's questions.
I got a question. Around how many homes do you think got affected by the storm?
Today's storm, right now the count is 277 on the east side, 13 on the west side, but the number is still going up. As I said before, water is still coming down the Rouge River. Some of it's still trying to get out of our sewer. I'm not sure if it's crested yet, and if we get more rain, I'm sure the numbers are going to go up. But that's what we have right now.
So around 300 home.
Yes, total right now, it's about 300. I expect it's going to go higher.
What's that based on?
It's based on calls that people said their basements are flooding.
So those of us who haven't called in got that number, but
That's why I said it might go higher. So, and that's why we're putting the information out for people to call. The number was the 3030.
Yeah, 943-3030. And it's important that we gather as much information as possible so that when the state or the federal government asks us for data, we have that data readily available. So again, folks, I know people are dealing with, their basements being flooded and having to empty them out and clean out the water. But in the meantime, please report as much as you can. That's very useful for us as a city moving forward.
what's that number again?
313-943-3030.
This number has been busy all day today.
So, again, if you can continue to call it, I know that our MIS department and communications department is also working on putting a Google form up, and that where you'll be able to provide your name, your address, your phone number, and email, and a description, and be able to gather that data as well. So we apologize. We know, we understand. Like I said earlier, we could only do this together. It's very difficult to have, one person or one department, under the leadership of Mayor O'Reilly. Every department is all hands on deck, and it's important that we understand that everyone's very frustrated, very angry. We acknowledge that. This is a time to see what we can do to help resolve the issues. It's very easy to finger point, but what we need to do now is get relief and figure out what we need to do.
Can you have all of this in Arabic too, please?
We'll talk with DPI and we'll see what we can have translated on the website.
Will be available, so where? The form? Fill out the
We have time.
forms?
Yeah. So as Bill Irving stated from legal, the forms will be placed online. You have time to complete them. They don't have to be completed today, tomorrow. There'll be some time. Bill, is there a deadline? You think?
45 days.
45 days.
Susan,
What's the website?
cityofdearborn.gov. I'm sorry. .org. I apologize. And you know what? Mayor Landros asked me to mention this earlier, and I apologize. For more information, please go on our website. It's cityofdearborn.org. That will, that as information becomes available, that website will be updated. And again, I know our, Ms. Landros is also responsible for making sure information is being disseminated through our social media sites, through Facebook, under City of Dearborn government. And so look for information there as well.
Susan, the city just lowered its insurance coverage to keep premiums down. Are you having any second thoughts now of having a higher deductible on damages to city property if we have more rain events like this?
At this point, Sue, what we care about is not about deductibles, it's about getting the relief that our residents need. So once, again, obviously after an investigation occurs and you look back and look at all the facts and everything that we have to evaluate, if decisions need to be made where you modify something, then we'll make that appropriate decision at that time. All right.
So the direction for the residents right now is just to report
it. Remove any damaged items within your basement. As Mr. Hawkins stated, GFL will, we appropriated $500,000 so that GFL will have their trucks out there. We anticipated maybe a week or two, it might be longer, but put your stuff out there. Again, these are goods that are damages as a result of the flood. Put it out there. Chief Murray, I think, spoke about dry ice will be made available at the Performing Arts Center, and I think bottled water as well.
Take pictures and document it.
Yes, and document and take pictures.
So the directions that we need to give the residents when they fill out the application or the form online is to report one, their basements got flooded.
Yes.
They need help to get the debris out of their basement.
No.
Okay, so a lot of people are asking they need help to get the debris out of their basements, and they know for a fact I was out of Wi-Fi, out of connection all morning. I couldn't get in. So people cannot call, people cannot log into social media or fill out the form online. How can we reach out to those people? What can we do to help them?
Okay, so that's where we ask that everyone puts in their efforts to reach out to your neighbors, your family, your friends, and try to put that information to everyone, and so everyone has the resources available to them. As far as helping people with disposing of their goods, this is where we come together as a team, as a city. You know, I remember back in 2014, people were helping their neighbors. People were just helping people they didn't even know. And everyone is going to have to do their part. You know, this is a catastrophe. And it was one that, unfortunately, you know, God sent down the rain, and now we have to address this issue. But you know, again, please look for more information online.
Can I propose one thing, President Susan?
Yes.
I know the city has a list of all the senior people living in houses, and I witnessed it my firsthand. My dad cannot even get to social media, cannot call for help, cannot do anything. If I'm not there, nobody will help him. So since you guys have the list, can we sponsor a champion and a volunteer initiative to get these the most vulnerable people out of the way?
We do have a senior services division, a department within the city, and I know that they're working around the clock to be able to contact people and see who needs assistance. Thank you.
We work with Access, we work with the faith-based organizations, we work with Red Cross, we work with all these organizations. If we got that information, if they need help, include that in their messages. If they can get it, you can send it, like you said, your parents can't, but you're here. So there are other resources to help them to get it to the curb. We don't have the people that go into people's houses. They're out in the street trying to keep the sewers operating and people safe in the streets. We need to help our seniors, and all these other agencies are there to do that and these kinds of emergencies.
Absolutely, and I want to reemphasize, I mean, you just heard Tim earlier stating, I mean, before he got here, he had cleaned out like 7 or 10 basements for people that aren't necessarily related to him or he knows. So people on this, you know, in the staff that work in our city are out there helping as much as they can, and so we'll continue to do so. But again, we're going to call on people to help each other out. So thank you.
Green for Life has had trouble meeting the regular pickups in not just our city, but in Dearborn Heights. How is paying more for pickup going to solve a problem when they don't have enough trucks, enough manpower, enough hours in the day? How are we going to get that service for Green for Life when they can't even do the regular pickups since Memorial Day?
Okay, so some of these things we've been addressing. We've had multiple meetings with GFL on the issues that they've encountered. Some of it was hiring. They have been doing job fairs and things. They have been upping the salaries of drivers to make themselves more attractable to new hires. They believe they have their staffing conditions solved. As far as paying them more to pick up more garbage, we're actually only going to ask for Saturday and Sunday as an extra service if they do not pick it up during the week. That is an if. I believe we'll definitely need the first Saturday, maybe a second Saturday. But as far as their staffing and the issues that happened in the past, we believe that has been corrected by GFL and moving forward.
So people won't get flood pickups before the regular trash day until next week. And so if I have a Thursday pickup, my flood damaged trash won't get picked up before Thursday. The overflow of trash will be picked up this weekend. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying as of right now, that we will not be moving ahead to pick it up. If it's available, GFL has offered us any services that they have on staff.
So we shouldn't put our flood trash out until our regular trash?
No. Put it out to the street. If it's available to be picked up and we are available, we will pick it up. Be patient. We are coming. We are going to get out there in the street and get this cleaned up as soon as possible for us.
Are you going to use city resources for that?
GFL, is what he said.
Well, he just said that GFL is not going to put extra trucks out until next weekend. So if my trash isn't picked up until Thursday, perhaps I shouldn't put my trash.
No, don't leave it in your house. Do not leave that stuff in your house.
Right, put it at the
Should I leave
curb.
it behind my
No.
garage?
Put it up the curb so we know it's there.
All right, so we're going to wrap it up. We're going to have one more question, but just to reiterate something that Tim had shared earlier. My understanding is that back in 2014, GFL, when evaluating their resources and where, you know, what other cities may need, are able to come back and give us a little bit additional resources to help.
That's correct. It depends on what the other communities have. They have offered us any resources that they do have in their stock. But real quick, one thing I want to touch back on. Make sure that if you flooded, call the 313-943-3030 because we are going to focus on areas that have the highest rate of flood damage. That's how we're going to try to coordinate GFL on Saturdays and move through. So it is very important that we get the phone calls in to know where to send GFL on the Saturday pickup.
Last question over here.
The east end of Dearborn, you said especially hit hard. Can you give specific streets, neighborhoods, those 200?
North of Michigan Avenue, east of Greenfield, up to Ford and Warren Road.
My Jonathan Street is a disaster. My house was the one that had a green couch, and everything was like a river.
Yeah, so I think that encompasses the area that he's talking about. So I think,
Can you repeat one more time with that?
North
Yes.
of Michigan Avenue, east of Greenfield, up to Warren Avenue.
all right, last question over here, and then we have to wrap it
I have
up.
a question. So first, thank you guys. You have been working on this since last night. We appreciate that. Now, we've got a plan. We've got $500,000. How confident are you in the plan that you put together in addressing this issue? And if the same storm with the same intensity happens tonight, are you willing? First, are you ready for it? Second, are you willing to raise the bar to sort of have $500,000 go to $1 million or $2 million or whatever it takes?
The latter question will have to be answered by Jim and Eunice. I can't answer that. I'm not an expert in the area. But as far as the plan is fluid. It's as we get information, as we learn things and address people's concerns and issues. So again, that's why we encourage people to please, provide the information, call the hotline, look on the website. Hopefully we have that form up so that people can log in and tell us what's going on, and so we can address appropriately.
And we are ready. Ron Haddad and Chief Murray and I were on the phone last night with the mayor and with his chief of staff, and all our employees were communicating. We are not the only community. I think we were hit harder than some, but we're not the only community in this. And I think, as President DeBaja has pointed out, the more that we work together, the faster we're going to resolve this to the satisfaction of those that are most impacted by it.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you guys for coming.